Should we get started?
We should. You should introduce it because it was your genius idea.
Okay. Well, to our listeners, welcome back to AfterMASH. I am your co-host, Jackie, and I'm joined
by me, Zoe.
Thanks. I didn't signal you correctly. Yeah, and AfterMASH is the podcast where we talk about how life has turned out after we were kids playing the game of MASH to predict our futures, and it turns out that life is way more complicated than we thought. So today for our episode, we wanted to try something a little bit different, hopefully a little bit more fun, also a nice throwback to our childhood. We want to play with cootie catchers.
I obviously played with these as a kid with our sound engineer, Jay. Jay and I have known each other since second grade. I always called them a fortune teller. So when Jackie pitched the idea of like calling this a cootie catcher, this podcast Cootie Catchers or something like that, I was like, what are you talking about? Why are you talking about vaginas? I am not naming my podcast.
I want you to know that every other person I have mentioned this to I was like, oh, we thought about naming it Cootie Catchers. They're like, oh, Cootie Catchers, I love them. So like you may not have heard of them, but everybody else has. You're the weirdo.
Yeah, I went to a prude school district. What can I say? I have a question.
Yeah.
My first question. Would you describe your high school as like a sex high school or a drug high school?
Oh, God. You're talking to somebody who is in the AP classes, so I think I was insulated from all of it. I grew up in the middle of Maryland, but we weren't in Baltimore County. And so I had a friend who went to a Baltimore County school, and her first week in high school, she was like, I could tell you all the corners to buy drugs from, who to buy them from, you know, what types of drugs, how much they cost. And I was a few years older, and I think I was a junior at the time, and I was like, I have no idea. So, but I think that says more about me than it does about the school. So I really don't know.
I mean, I wasn't partaking in any of this, and I am sure everyone was having sex, but I would classify my high school as a drug high school. Did you have any teen pregnancies in your high school?
There were like one or two a year. There was like a girl in my orchestra class, and I remember being like, holy shit, this happens?
And she like carried it to term.
But yeah. She was a year older than me, so that kid is probably older than she was when she had it now.
I don't think anyone was pregnant in our school. I'm sure people were getting abortions under the cover of night, facilitated by their parents who did not want that disgrace upon the family. I can't think of a single one.
Wow. Pretty good school, though, overall, I think. Only one or two pregnancies. Most of us went to college.
A year?
Yeah, I don't know. It was a big school. How big was your school?
My school was pretty small. I think it was like 1,200, like 600 a class.
1,200 would be, it's 4 years, right? 1,200 would be 300 a class.
It may have been 300. I can never remember if it was 300 or 600. I'm going to be completely honest.
Okay. Those are kind of different school sizes. Okay. Mine was 400.
Okay. Here, like Andrew's was like 1,000 kids. His high school was huge.
Oh my God. So he had probably had more than one pregnancy a year.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't paying attention.
He wouldn't know. Yeah, men. So, should we get into it? We have more questions.
Yeah. So how it's set up is we've made our cootie catchers, and we have a list of questions, and we each chose 4 that we put inside of our cootie catchers, and we're just going to go through it, and we'll probably end up each answering the questions. Jackie, you want to start? Do you want to give me a number? 2, 4, 6, or 8?
Ooh, let's go 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, do you want pink or orange?
We'll go pink.
Pink. Okay, do you want a crescent moon, one of those like Superman S's, a heart, or a star?
Oh my gosh, you made yours fancy. Mine is not this fancy.
Well, when I was making it, I was like, I think I'm missing a step, so I added a little icon.
Okay, I would love the Superman S.
All right. How and when did you decide that you wanted kids? what changed to make you feel this way, and what are you most looking forward to in raising kids?
Ooh, we're starting with a strong one. Let's see. When I was in my early 20s, I was very much like, oh God, I can't imagine having kids. This sounds very overwhelming. I don't even know myself yet. So I wouldn't say I was on the camp of never having kids, but I was definitely on the camp of like, this is going to be a later problem. I'm going to cross that bridge when I get to it. And then at some point when I was like 24, 25, I went to a party and there was some girl there who I was talking to who was a few years older. And she told me that when I turned 27, it would be like a light switch flipped and suddenly I would want kids. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. But then I got to 27 and it happened to me.
Maybe she was like a psychic or like someone who like plants like little spells on people.
Oh my God, I mean, it worked. Yeah, probably. So yeah, I went from in my early 20s being like, I can't even imagine this, to suddenly like looking at every baby on the street being like, I would like you. Can I have you? And this was a couple relationships ago, and it was a big joke in the relationship that we'd be walking down the street and we'd pass a couple with a baby and he'd look at me and go, no, Jackie, you can't have it. So yeah, I don't know. The hormones just really turned on. What was the rest of the question?
The rest of the question is like, what are you looking forward to in raising kids?
Oh yeah. So I really feel strongly now that I want kids. This is something that's super important to me. I think part of it is I do feel like I found myself. And so the thing that I'm really looking forward to doing is having a new challenge and taking on that challenge in a way that would have a really strong opportunity to give back and be selfless. I think I've felt like my whole life so far has been very self-centered and like self-actualization. But now that I feel like I've kind of figured it out, it's like, okay, I want to like give back into the world. And so that's the thing I'm most looking forward to. And so if something ever happened where I couldn't have kids, I think it would be really important for me to find to foster children or find like really meaningful volunteer work or mentorship or something like that. Just the sense of like life meaning feels like it comes from not just taking pleasurable experiences or opportunities from other people, but like giving that back to people.
Yeah. I don't think we've actually like ever really talked about this.
Yeah.
You and I. Because like, I feel like my awareness of your baby fever has been somewhat recent in the last like year or two. But I feel kind of similar in that like, I have been very selfish and I continue to be very selfish. And I worry that that might get in the way of being a good mom in the future. But also like wanting the new challenge, particularly with my husband, and like creating something to send into the world and hoping to make it like a more confident, sassy, outspoken version of me. Because I also really did, unlike you, I did not want kids. I think I really just didn't want to be pregnant and I don't want my body to change. And I've come around to the idea of being pregnant and that I'm more curious about it, I would say. And then what changed was I met someone who I really wanted to see, who I do want to see become a father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing how much that changes. I feel like I've talked to a lot of friends who are like, they never wanted kids or they've always wanted kids or maybe they're agnostic. But I feel like, to your point, it is so contextual. It's like, it's a lot harder to want kids when you're single. It's a lot easier to want kids when you have found somebody who you love and cherish and would want more of in the world, and who you would want to like see them get to go through this life stage. So yeah, it's cool. It's amazing how much these things change.
Yeah. And being okay with the change is certainly a sign of maturity.
Yeah, that is what life is all about. Are you ready?
I am ready.
To answer a question? Okay. You have 4 colors to choose from: pink, blue, yellow, or green.
Let's go with yellow.
Okay. YELLOW. I forgot how to spell. Okay, now you have, what is the right way to hold this so that you can see it? You have a 2, 3, 6, or 7?
3.
1, 2, 3. Okay, now you have a 1, 8, 4, or 5.
Those are all pretty bad numbers. Let's go with 5.
You have feelings about how good and bad numbers are?
You don't?
I think I like all of these numbers. What are good numbers to you?
I like 9. 9 is a good number to me. 3, like multiples of 3 I like, except for 12.
This is fascinating. Okay.
And 12 used to be my favorite number.
Interesting. 8 used to be my favorite. So you're like, oh, these all suck, and one of them is 8. And I'm like, Okay. Your question. When you were a kid, what did you want your life to look like as an adult, and what did you want to be when you grew up?
I wanted to be a dog breeder. In order to strong-arm my parents into getting me my first dog, I had this legacy of a dog, like, coffee table book. It was just like an encyclopedia of dog breeds, and I would slap it in front of them after dinner. I'd hold them hostage at the dinner table, and I'd be open to a random page, and I'd be like, is this one good with dogs? Is this one good with dogs? And they ironically picked the dog that is worse with kids, the dachshund, because that's what my mom grew up with. We went to a breeder. Listen, I had no say in this. This was 2002, and her house smelled like pee. And I was like, maybe I don't want to be a dog breeder. End of that dream. And then I don't know what I really wanted to be after that. I think everyone was like, why won't you be a vet? Why won't you be a vet? Why won't you be a horse vet? I was like, because this is my hobby, and I can't put like a little puppy down. I will just adopt all of them. The doctor thing did not come until later.
Yeah, that was pretty late. That was like halfway through the time that I've known you that you figured out you wanted to be a doctor.
2018, and in 2020, I was off to school again. And what did I want my life to look like? Was that the next part?
Yeah, like, did you have strong feelings about the white picket fence or anything?
I think I just assumed that I would. Like, I would have the same life that my parents gave us. And I do. Like, I'm well on that track.
Well, score 1 for young Zoe. She got 1 out of 2 right. Interesting. It's so funny how kids conceptualize the future. I definitely, through the time that we met, probably, like, early to mid-college, I was, like, pretty firmly on the white picket fence dream. And, like, I remember dreaming with my boyfriend at the time of, like, the single-family home we would own and the 2.5 kids and the 3 cars and the whatever. And it's like, that is so not, I mean, I still want kids, but, like, the rest of it is so not what I want anymore. So it's interesting how it changes. But when I was a kid, I wanted to be, well, I had a teacher tell me that I would make a good book editor because I was apparently correcting everybody's spelling and like, I don't know, sentence structure or something. So,
and I still think you would make a great book editor.
I think I've learned a few more things. Actually, this is a total aside, but one of the first time I ever got a love letter was in kindergarten. I had a boy in my class write me a letter, and he said, "Jackie, I love you," but he spelled my name and love both wrong. And so I wrote him a letter back that said, "Dear Jacob, I appreciate the sentiment," and, you know, it was like kindergarten, so I probably didn't say it in these words, but, like, "I appreciate the sentiment, but you spelled my name and love wrong. Sorry."
Savage.
Oh, yeah, so I probably would still make a good book editor. Maybe a little more tactful now.
I told you about 3 weeks ago that you would.
We'll chalk that up for a win for my second grade teacher.
All right, it's your turn. Do you want 2, 4, 6, or 8?
We'll go 4.
You do like 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go. Do you want a bow, a horseshoe, a paw, or sunglasses?
Let's go sunglasses.
SUNGLASSES. All right. Pink or green?
Did I do one of these last time? We're going to go pink.
No, you didn't.
Okay, I've forgotten already.
How has your sense of self, values, and or purpose changed?
I think I kind of mentioned this last time. I think I didn't have a strong sense of what was important to me when I was in college and out of it. So I was very much still following the path that I was put on. Like, get job, pay bills, find husband, buy single family home, etc. Like, that was the life I was seeing for myself, but it wasn't working or, like, wasn't super fulfilling. I did actually go on a really long journey in my 20s to, like, figure out what my values were. I started a book club where we read the Western classics and had a lot of philosophy debates, and I think that super helped. So now I feel pretty confident in what my priorities are. It's helping me make life decisions. Like, have I told you my 4 life values?
I think you have, but it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, so I have, sometime when I was going through this process, I came up with 4 values for if I do these 4 things, I will have lived a good life. And I'm just using them to judge when I make decisions. One of them is I want to make my own bread and bone broth.
On, like, a weekly, monthly...
Yeah, just regularly. And I don't have to actually make bread and bone broth. It's more of just like I want to have a lifestyle where I am taking the time to nourish my body and slow down and do things the right way as opposed to just the convenient way. I would love to have a ritual with my partner, ideally future husband, where we spend every Saturday morning sitting in silence on a front porch, drinking our coffees, just like togetherness, but also silence. I want to bike my kids to soccer practice, which is about, again, that like intentionality, slow living, also living in a place that has high enough density that you can bike places. I want kids, obviously. And then my fourth value is that I want to have an open door policy where I have friends who show up without having to ask first. And using these values, I've been able to make decisions around would I want to move? Do I want to, buy a home in the suburbs? Do I want to stay in the city? Do I pursue the job that pays me a lot of money, or do I pursue the job that gives me more life balance? And it's been super helpful to align. And now when I'm making decisions, even when they're like counterfactual to like if I turn down a higher paying job, but I'm doing it because it gives me more flexibility so that I could quote unquote make more bread and bone broth, I feel really aligned in that decision, even if it goes against what other people might understand. So, but yeah, I didn't know any of these values earlier, and so I was feeling super lost when I was in my early 20s. So it took a lot of work to get to the point where I feel like I know what's important to me.
And that's the homework assignment for our listeners, including me.
How would you describe this? How have you changed?
I am forced to become more confident and put myself out, like just raise my voice. I was like a very quiet and shy kid, and becoming a doctor has meant like incremental increases in responsibility and forcing myself to play the role of doctor so that my patients believe it. And then, as the months go by, and I'm given more responsibility and more independence, I start to feel more confident. And this has definitely bled into like my day-to-day life and my relationships. It did start in medical school. And I think at first, like the perception of the medical student as like the smart overachiever, blah, 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 like is immediately reflected upon you. And so that's when the confidence started, and it starts to shift as you like actually become a doctor, and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? And why are people giving me this responsibility? And why is everyone looking at me? And then you, like I said, you're playing the role, and then you slowly get the confidence. I remember when I started internship, like my first year of medicine, and we were renting this house that we ultimately ended up buying. It just felt like I was cosplaying this like suburban life as a power couple. And like every 6 months, it just feels more and more real. And like, obviously now we own the house, but it's all moving in parallel for like I said, the life I assumed I would have. I'm going to have to think about like my 4 driving principles. But I think in my 20s, I was really distracted by having an eating disorder and like compulsively exercising. And I was just always like racing and being injured and like going to the gym. And now that I'm like mostly recovered, I'd say, I just want to be a good partner. And you can't like have a raging eating disorder or even like a mediocre eating disorder and be a good partner. And I want to be smart with my time. Like I'm definitely valuing working smarter over working harder, which means like I'm not compulsively writing lists and making sure everything looks pretty and everything is as is, and I'm not wasting time documenting things 5 different ways. I'm like doing the job, and the job is going to be as good as it needs to be, and it's probably not going to be perfect. And I just want to be slower and more engaged and more thorough. So like most of my 20s, I felt like very rushed, and I'm not sure why, and I'm not sure towards what end. And now I'm a whopping 31, and I just want to be slower, which allows like more patience and curiosity and resting, which I definitely didn't allow myself.
Honestly, I'm hearing a lot of similarities in your journey to mine. I think we're saying it differently, but
mine was definitely less intentional. Yours was very intentional.
Yeah, but they were both coming from the same place of like extreme panic. What are you doing?
Sorry. I had so much caffeine. I was an absolute menace this afternoon at work. I was like making noises. I was like, and so like now you're just like, you're still seeing it.
Zoe is a menace. For anybody listening who could not see, she just had her cootie catcher on her hand and she was eating her face with it.
What else are you going to do?
Just put your hands in your lap.
I can't.
Well,
I've not been still for a single second on this episode. I'm sorry.
Well, I also can, going back to your answer, I definitely can confirm that I've seen you go through that growth journey. Like, we were both very lost when we were in our early 20s and living together in Boston and not sure what we were doing or where we were going. And I don't know, you seem a lot more confident and comfortable and capable and happy with where you are. So I think it's working.
Back at you.
It's been cool to know you this long. Get to see the growth.
Weird, scary.
Okay, next question. Now I'm having trouble. Green, yellow, pink, blue. What do you want?
Blue.
B, L, U, E. 6, 7, 2, 3.
7.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, 1, 8.
1.
Ooh, this is a fun one. Okay, how far into your relationship did you know that your husband was the one for you? And since he was your first boyfriend, did you have any doubts? And if so, how did you handle them?
So my husband and I started dating in like September of 2016. I think it was like September 25th of 2016 because we were supposed to meet at the Fluff Festival in Somerville, the home of Fluffanutter. Well, the fluff part of the Fluffanutter. But he gave me the wrong number in the, like, we were on OkCupid because he's, like, severely dyslexic. And so when I texted him, it didn't go through. So we ended up meeting the next day.
How old were you in 2016? You said 2016? Yeah.
Yeah, was I 22?
9 years ago. Almost 10.
I knew it was almost 10 years with Andrew, but I didn't realize I was 22. I was such a dumb baby.
We were so young. For context, Zoe, think of who I was dating at that time.
Oh, God.
And think of how far I've come, and you're still with the same man.
Oh my God, I think I need to get divorced. Something's wrong.
No, you found a good one from the start. It's just taken me a while. You did it. Good job. Zoe is now turning bright pink.
Wow, you have just shattered my brain somehow.
Okay, baby Zoe, she's 22. She meets somebody who she's gonna have a real relationship with for the first time in her life.
Yeah, we were both each other's firsts. And then in April 2018-ish, we broke up. It all came down to like communication issues, whatever. It was like for 3 months, and then I essentially forced him to get back together with me. And I think it was a little bit before that time that we broke up that I realized I want, like, as I said, like I would be okay having kids with this person, because I remember we were living in Watertown, and I said, Jackie, I just want this on the record so it doesn't sound like I'm like pandering. Like, I am okay with having these kids. Whatever, his kids, whatever. Yeah, I just wanted to see him become a father. Specifically, he's like a very childlike person. He's very smart. He's very capable, but he also is able to not take himself too seriously. And I think it'd be really fun to see him be a father. And when we broke up, I realized that I just wanted to like be in the kitchen with him looking out a window. Like, I just remember that, kind of similar to like you're sitting on the stoop with coffee, that kind of thing. And then we got back together and things progressed smoothly. And then I got antsy, and part of it was that I wanted the ring, and part of it was that I was like sick of the boyfriend girlfriend shit, even though like truly like once you move in together, which we had, like nothing really changes, but like I was just ready to move on. I'm impatient. I get obsessive, whatever. And as you said, we were both each other's first, and it's definitely come into both of our minds during the breakup and otherwise, like, is this the right decision? I think it's safe to say that neither of us are really like, the one true love. Like, neither of us really subscribe to that. And I think it's not that we settled, but like, we're very happy with the life that we can and are able to build together. And we're like willing to work together to see it through.
Well, that's nice. I mean, I'm hearing you talk about the intentionality and the choice, but also like you guys both had to go through that discovery process of like do I want to be with this person, and how do I learn how to communicate with them, and do I want to learn how to communicate with them, and am I willing to be settling down now? So yeah, I mean, you guys were together for like, what, 7 years, 6 years before you got engaged? Like, it was still a meaningful amount of time, so I don't think you were antsy for no reason.
Engineers.
They never, yeah. They're like, what? We've been together long enough to get married?
But, like, when we broke up, it was really hard. And, like, we did not do a good job being broken up. Jackie can attest. Sparing the details, Jackie can attest.
You kept being like, but can I reach out to him again?
And he was like, what if I still text you every day? And so I just, like, I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but you have, and this is not, like, slut-shaming or anything, but, like, it's very commendable that you have been able to, like, be broken up with people. And, like, there's been one guy or two that, like, the decision to break up was really difficult and you kept waffling, or you did ultimately, like, get back together and it ultimately didn't work out. But I'm just so curious how you were able, like, what is that process like? Like, how do you successfully break up with someone?
Oh, God. I need to explore this theory more, but I have a theory that people who don't ever break up never break up because they have never gone through it and it sounds too scary. But then people who do break up, just, like, it comes much easier to them. Like, it's still obviously excruciating, but
I believe that because it was so scary. And, like, part of me, the worry part of me is, like, what if he's just not breaking up with me and he doesn't want to marry me because he doesn't like confrontation and it was so hard the first time?
Yeah. I mean, I think you guys built a beautiful life together, and I'm very jealous of the fact that you found somebody to settle down with. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot that you're never going to know. I mean, the first breakup I had was the hardest. We'd been dating for 3.5 years from high school into college. And I mean, you and I were living together at the time, so you can probably attest to how hard it was. But I think no other breakup has been that hard because I hadn't dated anybody since then for longer.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. My longest relationship is still the one that I had when I was 19. I would like to change that.
No, that's because you got smarter.
It's because I learned how to leave situations sooner. Like, in that relationship, we had almost broken up, or we broke up and got back together or something like that, like a year in. And then we just stayed together because it was our first love and it was really hard. So we had kind of the same situation that you had, except we did it when we were younger and there was less reason to stay together or be together. And we were long distance at that point. So it wound up that we drifted apart. And I think he's a phenomenal guy. We reconnected a few years ago and he's living a great life. But I'm also incredibly glad that I'm not with him. And like I said, that was the relationship when we were, like, planning on buying a single family home and having the white picket fence and, like, all those things that I now know are not true for me. And he has gone on to buy the single family home and get the dog and have the truck and, like, live the life that we'd been talking about. So yeah, anyhow, I've learned a lot about myself and I'm glad I'm not in that one. But then since then, I think one of the hardest lessons to learn was how to listen to my gut. I think I definitely was in a relationship where I wasn't listening to my gut and I wasn't very happy in it. And I stayed in for a long time because my head was telling me it was a good fit.
Jackie was a very, like, on paper kind of person. So, like, the learning to listen to her gut was definitely, like, a years long process. Years long and boys long.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to learn that. It's hard. Yeah, and so my most recent relationship that I ended, he was somebody who, like, we had a great time together. It was a lot of fun. He's also a great guy. I think we were compatible in the, like, day-to-day, but we didn't want the same lifestyle or long-term things. And it feels very similar to my first breakup in that, like, objectively great guy, just not the right one for me. But in the first one, I stayed in that relationship for 3.5 years. And in this most recent one, I stayed in it for a little over a year because we reached the point where we were having the, okay, what are we doing conversations a lot sooner. And once we started having them, we were able to go, ooh, I actually don't think we want the same things. And then we parted ways. So yeah, I don't know. I think I now know how to navigate the breakup.
You've always had this really practical stopping point where it's like, well, we're coming up on a new lease, and are we at the point of moving in together? And the answer was no.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like a bit of reality in the whole emotion of it all.
Yeah, now I just want to learn how it feels to stay in something.
Fingers crossed. I think you got it. Knock on wood.
I hope so. We'll see.
This is real wood.
Good. Good. We need it. Yeah. I've been in this one a year and change. So just as long as basically all of my relationships except the other one. So if we can get over this hump, then we'll be great.
I can't believe you were with your high school boyfriend for the longest. That blows my mind.
By like 2 times longer. Yeah. So it goes. Okay. Ask me another question. Yeah.
2, 4, 6, or 8?
2.
1, 2. Orange or pink? Wait, no, this is purple. Sorry, orange or purple?
Purple.
Purple. Heart or star?
Star.
What is one thing you want to do differently than your parents did? And then what is one thing you'd like to emulate?
Ooh. I think my parents did a phenomenal job giving me the space to pursue the things I was interested in and like supporting me really hard in those things, but then not ever putting pressure on me to push past where I was excited about something. So like I swam, I did a lot of different sports, and my parents would go to all the different sporting events, even when we were really bad, or the concerts, even when we were in like elementary school and playing violin and it sounds awful. Like they would support us through all of those things. But then like when I was getting more serious about swimming, my dad would still go to the swim meets and just say, do your best and have fun. And it was not about hitting any particular marks. And I had some friends whose parents pushed them really hard. And then they wound up burning out and hating it. And so I feel like my parents did such a good job of supporting, letting me go as deep as I wanted into something, but not pushing me too far. But let's see, what would I do differently?
And I will say, like, your confidence is always something that struck me. So, like, it definitely fostered that.
That's cool. That's good to hear. Yeah, if my parents are listening, Zoe is endorsing it. One thing that I mean, I think I've already done this differently than my parents, and so I'm curious to see how it'll play out when I have my own kids. But my parents were they followed the rules in everything they did, and they lived a very traditional life, really similar to what you were talking about. Like, they met at 19, they got married at 24, they had their kids in their 20s, they bought their single family home. I grew up in the suburbs. They only ever had one job each. I mean, my mom had a couple, but like still in the same exact space. And so like as someone who was growing up who, like, when I had to face my first job change or my first heartbreak or, you know, moving houses, like these are experiences my parents just never had. And I think it reflects a slight difference in their personality to mine, but I think it also reflects how the world has changed since when they did it and the lives that we're living. And so, yeah, I don't know. I think when I'm raising kids, I hope that I've had enough changes of experience and like going through hard times that I can speak to that and like help them through them with more firsthand experience than my parents were able to with me. And I also think that that's a value that I hold, this like diversity of experience that my parents don't, because they're much more conservative when it comes to their comfort level with change and uncertainty. So yeah, I don't know. I love my parents very much, and there's a lot of things that we are similar, but it is funny to reflect as an adult on the ways that we're also pretty different.
Yeah. I think I had a very comfortable childhood, like upper middle class. I was too comfortable. I remember when like Johnny Rockets was coming to town and I had the job application and my dad was like offended that I was applying to a job. He's like, why does Zoe need to make money? Like, I'll just give her the money. It's fine. And I was able to use that time and spend it at the barn, which I like worked. I got to ride so much more and so much nicer horses because I was giving my trainer all of my time, and my parents were not investing in horses. I thought that was a dumb investment. To their credit, it is a dumb investment. One that I will pursue one day. But because I didn't have to make money, I could go and work my way through at the barn and be a barn rat and like go to shows at a discount and ride nicer horses and all that thing. But I wish that I was forced to have a job, because I think I would have learned the value of $1 earlier. Like, I always thought I kind of knew the value of a dollar, mainly because I just like wasn't spending a lot. Like I wasn't just like buying things all the time, but that's not really what a value of a dollar is. It's like understanding like if I'm putting my money here, then it's not going here and it's not growing, and like the power of like consumerism and all of that. And I am really grateful that I don't have student loan debt. Like that I want to be able to give that to my kids. However, I regret my master's so much. It was such a waste of money, and I would be happy to pay for college and pay for like one postgraduate degree, but I need the kid needs to show me like what they're going to do with it and that it's going to work out. Like I'm not going to just pay for like an MFA if they're just like trying to traipse across France and like go to the Louvre and things like that. Like there needs to be a plan. There needs to be an ROI somehow. It doesn't have to be lucrative, but it has to be a lifestyle that they want and are willing to work out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of just having a high school job. I definitely learned that. I was a lifeguard making minimum wage for a couple summers, and at the end of the summer, I think I had like $1,500, and that's what I had to show for the whole summer. And so I like really understood like, wow, it takes a lot of work to make money. Yeah, I mean, I think this was a big difference that we felt between the two of us when we first met. Like we definitely were coming from different cultures when it came to money expectations and how much our parents were paying for things versus we had to pay for ourselves. So, okay, should we do another one?
I think we're on our last two.
Pick a color.
Pink.
P-I-N-K. 2, 3, 6, 7.
2.
1, 2. 2, 3, 6, 7.
6. All the numbers I don't like.
I thought you didn't like the other ones.
Yeah, I know.
What numbers do you like?
I like 3, 9. 16's a good number.
Well, there's a 3. I said 2, 3. You could have chosen 3.
Did I already choose 3?
Maybe you did already choose 3. I don't remember. No, you didn't choose 3 yet. Okay, but we're doing
6.
6. Describe your childhood. I feel like we kind of already did.
Yeah, so my childhood was very comfortable. Like it was white, it was privileged, it was all the things that weren't put into perspective until the last like 5 to 10 years. My parents met in medical school. They had my brother and my sister and like this whole life before Zoe. And then my brother was 8, my sister was 11 when I was born. I was on purpose. They did want me. I know that for a fact. But I've definitely been defined by like being the baby. And when I talked earlier about like medical school gave me the confidence, like I've really had to go against every instinct I've had as being the baby. Like I'm the baby of my family. I'm the baby of like all my cousins and everyone. And so like I didn't have anyone to talk to, and I was just like looked after and cherished, and I was the baby. There's like no other way to describe it. And I think it's taken really like the last 5 years to like break out of that mold a little, even like with my siblings and my parents and stuff as well. But I also had a very different childhood from my siblings because my parents were tired and my mom got sick, and like the energy was very distracted away from me. So I was like raised by a nanny. I was really reliant on my friends' moms. And I just had to like take care of myself. Like I was provided for, and like in a way like money and things and clothes and shopping was how my mom like expressed her love. But like emotionally, like my parents were not at all my sporting things at all. Whereas my dad was driving to Canada with my sister for her hockey games. And so I just had to become self-sufficient, and I didn't want to be a burden. And I also saw how they were reacting to my siblings, who were also difficult kids. And so I just wanted to be the good girl. And I'm not trying to say that I was like horribly neglected in any way, but in a certain way that wealthy kids can be, I was neglected.
Yeah. Did you know when you were a kid that your parents would drive your sister to all her sporting events when she had been your age, and that they weren't doing it for you? Like, could you feel that difference at that point?
I think it hit me in high school. Like, I really wanted my dad to come to my horse shows, and he like never would. Like, it was even just like pulling teeth to get him to go to the grocery store with me. Like, I wasn't asking for that much. I just wanted to run errands with him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting. That does feel like a big difference between your parents and mine. I was the oldest, and My parents had me when they were in their 20s. Your parents had you when they were in their 40s. So it's just kind of a different stage of life and different capacity to show up for the kid.
I will say what was great about having siblings who were born in the 80s and like raised in the 80s and early 90s is that my parents were very chill. Like my friends' parents were very overprotective. Jay is the only child. Lexi was the oldest child. And so my parents were like, she'll be fine.
That definitely makes sense. The Zoe that I first met at 18 or 19 and how different our childhoods were. We're like, on paper, we both like grew up with married parents who were making upper middle class-ish money, living in the suburbs. But yeah, like when you kind of peel back the layers underneath that. Oh, and we both had siblings and pets and like hobbies, and we were both good students. Like I think there's a lot on paper that looks really similar, but underneath that, the emotional.
I mean, we landed at the same college.
Yeah. But we still came from what sounds like it felt like different spaces. And then like opposite to you, I was the oldest, am the oldest daughter of younger, much more like socially conservative parents who were more worried about things. And so I definitely feel like it's kind of a similar energy to your energy, but like from the opposite end. Like I definitely have the like oldest daughter syndrome of like I have to be in control and in charge, and like things have to be okay, and like I need to take care of things and situations and people. And
were you asked to like parent your sister? Like were you brought on as the third parent?
No.
I think you need like 3 kids for that to start being a problem.
Yeah, my younger sister was only 2 years younger. She was the difficult child of the two of us, though. I think school came pretty easy to me. I didn't really struggle with a lot of things. So there was definitely a period of time in high school when my parents were putting a lot of energy into like getting her okay, helping her with school, like making sure she's doing fine, like helping her navigate situations. And I definitely had like a moody high school phase where I was like, man, they don't pay attention to me. But yeah, I think she and I were just kind of in our own little bubbles. We were like friends, but we were also kind of different. So she was like dealing with being in the shadow of a high achieving older sister. So I could imagine that was tough. It's kind of nice that you were so far away from your siblings in age and you weren't like immediately following them. I imagine that might be hard.
Except they weren't overachieving, so there was no shadow.
Amazing. There we go.
I'm such an asshole.
They're not going to listen.
It's your turn. I think this is the last one. 2, 4, 6, or 8?
8, which is my favorite number.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Pink or green?
Green.
GREEN. Did we do these? All right, I'm just going to find the one. Okay. So you're choosing green. What was your career path like? What is your current relationship to work? And what do you want it to look like in like 5, 10, 20 years?
Ooh, yeah. Non-linear. In college, Zoe knew me as a chemistry major and then followed shortly by a chemical engineering major because I met with somebody once about, am I sure I want to do chemistry? And they said, well, chemical engineering is basically the same thing, except you don't need higher education. Like after this, you're good to go and you can do the same stuff as a chemist, except you won't need that master's. And I was like, thank God, I'm so done with school. In hindsight, I really like school. I miss it. But I was just ready to get into the real world. So I studied chemical engineering, and then I graduated, and I got a chemical engineering job at a pharma company, and I couldn't stand it. And I was like, oh no, what have I done? So then I went to a 3D printing startup, which was a completely opposite industry. The pharma company was very federally regulated, inspected, blah, blah, blah. We had to do everything exactly right and document it and sign it 3 times. And if we did it wrong,
and you were the quality engineer, right?
The validation engineer, basically the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is not Jackie's personality, like to be clear.
Not even a little bit. So I left that industry and I went to fast and loose startup world where we didn't have to document anything. Nothing was documented. Literally nothing was documented. We're scaling up rapidly, and I was put in charge of all of these suppliers, and I had to make sure that they were meeting quality. And turns out that it didn't matter what industry I was in, chemical engineering was just really bad fit for me. And so I got laid off from that job.
What about it do you think was a bad fit?
I think to be a really good engineer, because
you're definitely curious.
I'm very
and I feel
curious.
Like that's all an engineer is.
I don't think so. I think an engineer is taking a situation and understanding it under a set of paradigm. Like, to be a good engineer, you have to understand what the rules are. And then you are basically operating within the rules and like figuring out how to apply the rules. And I just don't like rules. I think that's the short of it. Like, I really like analytics, which is where I went after the layoff. I pivoted to being a data analyst, and like in this space, there's still a little bit of science. Like, I have to know stats and stuff, but it's not like there are like physical gravity rules that I have to operate and optimize within. Like, I'm kind of just like waving a magic wand and like waving my hands and being like, that made the number go up. That's pretty cool.
Shareholder value, baby.
That shareholder value. And so I feel like analytics is much more creative and storytelling and like connecting the dots. And like, I often feel like I'm like spelunking. I'm like in the woods, like, or in like underground, like digging around, being like, what can I find down here? And there are all sorts of buried treasure, but you know, I'm not necessarily following the laws of physics. So it's not like there's a right answer and a wrong answer. And so I think I'm just not as good at the like coloring within the lines that you need to be a good engineer. But yeah, I got laid off. I was devastated. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was like, oh my God, school has always come easy to me. I don't know how to fail at something. And I had a great friend, shout out Rachel, who thought I would make a good analyst. And so then I did. I went and I became an analyst at a small startup for 4.5 years. And then for the last 2 years, I've been at a larger tech company. And well, it's still a decently small tech company by tech company standards, but more medium-sized company compared to my old one. And yeah, I think it's been very winding. I think at 22, I was terrified that I had to find the right job and it had to be a good fit. And if it wasn't a good fit, then like everything I've done up until that point was a waste and I had no idea. Like, I'd been following a very linear path until that point. And so to get to the end of that path and realize that the tracks disappeared and I could literally go in any direction was really terrifying. And so I think that also contributed to my like early 20s panic of like, what is life? What are my values? Who am I? How do I fit into the world? So yeah, I'm really grateful I found analytics. I think it's a great fit for me. It really is that like being a storyteller, being a problem solver. And so yeah, I think I want to keep doing this. I never thought I'd find a job that I liked, that I'd want to stick in. There's definitely a period of time in my life where I thought when I had kids, I would definitely be a stay-at-home mom or like work part-time, just like, you know, coach at the local lifting studio and like not have a real job, and my husband would pay for things, and that's kind of what I envisioned for myself. So I feel so grateful to have found a space where I can see myself actually enjoying continuing to work. So if all goes well, I will get to stay in the data space and maybe one day be a leader at a small company.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the reason I went into medicine was like, well, I could do this very defined path that will create a road for me that at the end has like a bunch of different opportunity and a lot of money, or I could like blindly climb my way through some career ladder that I make up and maybe end up happy and maybe end up making money. And like 22-year-old Zoe, 25, 27-year-old Zoe, like absolutely would not have coped with that. Like I would have stayed at like entry level. Like I would not have known what to do with that at all. And I very much just like didn't know what I wanted to do. I like very much didn't have a career path. Like after college, I got a master's because I only knew how to be a student, and I kind of knew what I wanted to do, but not really. And I think I didn't want to be a doctor because my parents were doctors, and like they were tired and they were on call on the weekends, and I was raised by a nanny. And I, like, as the kid, didn't really see the, like, fun part of it. But when I was in my 20s and they're like, well, we both really loved our jobs and there's so much opportunity and, like, this, you would be a good fit, because they never pushed us into anything. But my mom finally was like, Zoe, like, I'm not, like, telling you should be a doctor, but I think you, like, would actually really like it. And she was right. So that's to say I didn't have a career path until I did. And now that I am in my second year of residency, I definitely want to work in a hospital for a few years. And then like 10, 15 years down the road, it could look different. I either want to move up in administration and have like a higher role in a hospital, or I will be completely fed up with healthcare and I will do like concierge medicine in the suburb that I live in and make it like a very holistic lifestyle med kind of situation, because the specialty I'm in really does cater towards lifestyle and pain management and just accountability. So I'd bring in like nutritionists and make like community programming and like psychiatrists and have like cooking classes and go shopping and go for walks and things like that together.
Honestly, that sounds really fun. I like that idea.
And then as a side project, as a throwback to our advanced care planning episode, my mother-in-law and I joke, fantasize, quip about starting like a assisted living facility in town. So I would like to be the medical director of that.
Also a good idea. I love this. I love Zoe as an entrepreneur. I know we keep talking about this, but I'm just so amazed and pleased that we were these two like completely lost 22-year-olds who like had good pedigrees but had no clue what we were doing or how the world works, and we were just like out living in Boston trying to figure it out, and here we are a decade later, like having figured it out and having these really tangible ideas for where we want to go in our lives and what is a good fit for us and how to be happy.
And here we are with this podcast spewing it to you, and then we're going to be 40 and we're going to be parents and we're going to be like, what the fuck were we thinking?
But we'll be saying that on the podcast. We'll get to carry you on the journey. It'll be great.
It'll be like life after kids or something.
Yeah. We'll workshop it. Bring it back to the shop. Yeah, that's cool. Look at you. I think you should be an entrepreneur.
And like that's the thing, like I want to, but I'm not like creative or industrious enough to be. So that's why I need the like defined lines. And yes, I am interested in being a business partner with you, which is why I'm hosting a podcast with you.
That's why we're already kind of, not that there's any money in this, but that's why we're already kind of business partners.
I mean, I do think we have very complementary strengths.
I agree. Yeah. I feel like a lot of people I surround myself with have really similar strengths to me, so it's nice that we complement each other well. Okay. If anybody has ideas on starting assisted living facilities for Zoe and I to pursue, and Zoe's mother-in-law, send it our way. Okay, last question.
Blue.
B-L-U-E. I'm just going to wind up finding it, but do you want a 1, 8, a 4, or a 5?
I'll do an 8 in your honor.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yay! I actually don't think it's either of these, so we're just gonna... Oh, I think it's this one. Okay, well, do you want a 2 or a 3?
3.
3!
In my honor.
In your honor. Look at that, we're ending on a high note. Okay. What was a really hard lesson that you learned in your 20s?
I think I took myself so seriously for, like, no reason at all. Kind of like what I said with my values, like, I was rushing for some reason, and, like, I really needed to slow down and, like, take a chill pill. And I think part of that whole process is realizing that I was not as mature as I thought I was. I was just a brat with control problems. And now I am a semi-well-adjusted adult working on her control problems.
I don't think you were a brat. I think you were just a 22-year-old. I think we're all brats at 22.
And I think just accepting that your body changes was a big one for me.
Yeah, honestly, same. Yeah, when I started actually getting gray hairs, I was like panicking.
I can't wait for my gray hairs. A patient's friend was literally looking at me. She's like, are you really the doctor? You look like you're 20.
You just need to start getting wrinklier. You need to start frowning a lot or something.
I already squint so much, and I
know, but you're not getting wrinkles from it yet. You gotta work on those wrinkles, girl. Everybody else needs to be de-wrinkly. They're all paying lots of money for that, and you're sitting here like, how do I look older? How do I look less hot?
Just a tad.
Just a tad.
Oh, well.
Just start dyeing your hair gray.
Touch of gray.
Yeah. Okay, a hard lesson that I learned in my 20s, I think I already talked about this, but when I got laid off from the 3D printing job, that was a really rude awakening because, like, I hadn't found jobs that I'd liked before that I'd been good fits for necessarily, but it still felt like I was still on that like straight and narrow path of like I studied chemical engineering. I'm acting as a chemical engineer. That was the first time where I was like, oh, I can fail at something. And like, it doesn't just get handed to me. I don't just like get a passing grade for participation. I have to work at it, and like not everything will work, and I need to, and then it's on me to figure out what would work and like to learn from it. So I think that was the big awakening for me.
Yeah. I think we went to a liberal arts school. It was a small liberal arts school. It was literally a college on a hill, and it was really like being in a snow globe. And I think my perception of the kids at the Harvards and the Ivy Leagues is like they're pumped with like a false sense of belief and a false sense of self. And there is certainly an aspect of fake it till you make it, but like you don't learn what you need to learn in college. College is best for critical thinking skills and like critical thinking skills and exploring your passions and like a next step in independence. But like your 20s is when you're really floundering. And I think I felt as if you were floundering a little more than me because I am always playing it safe. And I really admire, I mean, as I said, like you were the more confident one, like, and I've really admired your ability to take everything in stride and how intentional you've been in reevaluating everything.
Well, I've needed it, so there's needed to be a lot of reevaluation. Oh crap, that relationship didn't work. Now what? But thank you. That means a lot.
And then I'm just that asshole who's like, I told you I was right.
Yeah, but I needed to hear it. Oh my God, there was a period of time where I don't even remember what it was, but I was like dating and I would always go to Zoe and be like, what's happening? Why is this not going well? And she'd give me exactly the advice that was right, but I was not in the headspace to hear it. And every single time I'd be like, I don't believe you. And then I would make the same mistake. And then later she'd be like, you mean that advice I told you about?
Oh, that reminds me, like going back to like when did I know that Andrew was the one? I think like you have had to work, sorry, I'm really blowing you up here. You have had to like work really hard to understand that not everything is going to be perfect and idyllic. And like in relationships in particular, like going back to like you were very like on paper, this is perfect kind of thing. And for Andrew and me, it was like, this is good. Like this is fine. This is not, I'm not like head over heels. I'm not on cloud. I mean, I'm sure I was head over heels and I'm not on cloud nine, but I wasn't like chasing anything, if that makes sense. And it was easy.
Yeah, my favorite story about that is Zoe and I both downloaded dating apps when we first moved to Boston and started going on dates, and we'd come home at the end of the date and go, how did it go? And then we'd do the debrief. And after the first, I think you only went on like 2 first dates before him or something. And after those, both of you came back and were like, they're fine. And like, that was what you would say with a little bit of the eye roll. And I'd be like, okay, those aren't going anywhere. And you came back to after your first date with Andrew and you were like, it was good. And I was like, holy shit, she found it. So yeah, I think, I don't know if I would call that head over heels, but I think for you that was head over heels. The fact that like you broke up and you were incessantly still messaging him. I was just like, I don't know. I think there's an element of breakups are hard, but I also think that he was always a good person to you. So it made sense that you were panicking when you broke up with him. Whereas I think my breakups were a little bit more bittersweet because there was like more truth to that not being the right fit. And like, so there was all of the sadness, but there was also the like, this makes sense.
Yeah. And so that's all to say that your 20s is what college is pitched to you to be.
Yeah. That's a really good summary.
If your college is messy, your 20s is going to be messier. You're not going to have learned a damn thing because you're able to party hard, study hard and party harder and get away with it. In your 20s, you can't do that.
Well, you can for a little bit, but...
A little bit, but it will fall apart by 26.
Oh, yeah, by 26, but that's still 4 years.
Fair, but you could have been investing in that time.
So if we have any 22-year-old listeners, open a brokerage account.
Go listen to Money with Katie.
That too. Yeah, not sponsored.
All right. I really need to pee. This was really fun. I think that was a good episode.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to introduce ourselves to our listeners more. I feel like you and I know a lot of these answers for each other already, but maybe not all of them. I think some of them were still a surprise.
I think that's what was fun. I think we've taken for granted our just like being there for one another and like but I think you, like, I wasn't part of your book club. You've had a lot of this growth and, like, those philosophical debates I know you love, but, like, I have not been a part of. And so it was really nice to, like, hear about them, you know?
Yeah, same. Cool. Well, thanks everybody. Catch you next time.
And follow us on social media, AfterMASH Pod.